And now our special midnight broadcast, The Sound of Dysentery for 9 hours.
Oh, God! Oh, please put me out of my misery! Oh, my ass! Oh, God, help! Help me! Oh!
So Josiah's in the process of looking up the MAGFest radio commercials, but he, at least I think it was 3 years ago, played this for I think 9 hours in the middle of the night during stock. Yes. No, he was the airline boarding stuff, right? Yeah. All right, that's a lot.
Everybody tell your friends.
Yeah. We don't have a phone up here this year. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Why don't we have a phone up here this year, Tech Ops?
I'm not in Tech Ops. Hey, Mark.
Why don't we have a phone up here this year, Tech Oops?
I don't know.
Burn.
Do you want a phone?
Not particularly.
Yeah.
That's what most people
But we'd
say.
like to have options.
Mag stock for Michael. Commercials. Give me your audio. Plug.
Let me know. Let me turn it back up.
What's in Z? The other side, maybe?
Is Bunny coming? Where's Bunny? She's the only one missing, right?
I think so.
And she's also first, so that's not great.
Boo. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
we can just
Rebars
radio
later.
security.
Yeah, she's probably doing something important.
Yeah.
Like securing
And now our
things.
special presentation broadcast at midnight. The sounds of men screaming for 9 hours.
If you were ever wondering what it's like to be on staff.
this is actually a really close approximation. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I'll save you from that. Sure. I am duplicating display. So this is all just like not at all planned content I'm showing you. We do an event called Magstock every year where we do like a camping trip in the woods. It used to be in Louisa, Virginia, which is kind of down, I don't know, probably about an hour east of west of Richmond. But it's finding a new venue at the moment. And we did all these ads that were really funny. I thought so, at least, for our pirate radio station that A, was not legal, because and B, was very surprising to the people who would tune into like 99.3 FM looking for their Christian rock on the other side of the mountain, and would find that we were playing stuff like, I don't know, this.
Snake River Ferry. Has this ever happened to you while fording the Snake River?
My child!
Then you need Snake River Ferry. Here at Snake River Ferry, you can pay a modest fee for transportation across this damned river. No more empty casket funerals. We're sure little Johnny will live to the ripe old age of 27, where he'll die of dysentery in his sleep like the good Lord intended. I'm so cold. Snake River Ferry. When the fording goes wrong, we ferry right in.
There you go.
Do you have the Dr. Butterscotch ones?
Oh yeah, those are great. Do you want the cherry flavored heroin or the teething tobacco?
Teething tobacco.
The what? Teething tobacco. All right, here we go.
Is your baby teething? Are you worried that those pearly whites won't come out into a nice natural yellow? Put away those wooden dentures and sulfur powders. You need something tastier and more effective. That's why you need Dr. Butterscotch's Teething Tobacco. Dr. Butterscotch's Teething Tobacco is perfect to use for all of your teeth coloring needs. FDA approved for use with infants and toddlers. Dr. Butterscotch's Teething Tobacco is special aged specifically to wear down those gums and get those teeth a cracking a chew at our lovely tobacco. Its kids simply fall out of their gums to get at our chewing tobacco. It's almost like they can't stop. So when your children are stuck with those terrible looking pearly whites, use Dr. Butterscotch's specialty teething tobacco to solve your worries to a nice golden yeller. Pick up some at your general store today.
It's not that hard for me to do that voice. All I have to do is just pretend I'm 100.
You're not?
I try very hard. We got a few more minutes. Let me play the cherry flavored heroin.
Maybe.
Kids hate taking the medicine, but we know they have to, or else they run the risk of dying of the consumption. The problem is the flavor. Children dislike the sour tastes of most medicines. That's why you need Dr. Butterscotch's Genuine Heroin. Dr. Butterscotch's Genuine Heroin now comes in that delicious cherry flavor that kids just can't get enough of. In our clinical tests, we found that 100% of kids who tried Dr. Butterscotch's cherry-flavored heroin came back for more. Whether it's the rickets or barrel fever, Dr. Butterscotch's genuine cherry-flavored heroin is all natural and carries none of the risks associated with addictive medications like morphine. Pick up a bottle at your local apothecary today.
Side effects of using Dr. Butterscotch's genuine cherry-flavored heroin may or may not include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, loss of appetite, dizziness, tired feeling, weight loss, swelling in your hands or feet, fast heart rate, easy bruising or bleeding, unusual weakness, joint pain, anxiety, aggression, skin rash, redness or swelling around your eyes, urinating more than usual. If you or any of your loved ones experience any of these side effects, please seek medical attention right away.
Dr. Butterscotch's genuine cherry-flavored heroin. It'll cure what ails you and maybe a little bit more.
Please note that Dr. Butterscotch's genuine cherry-flavored heroin has only been approved in the United States for use as a painkiller and has not been found to have any curative effects.
So, welcome everyone to the True Stories of the MAGFest Staff panel. If you filtered in for... do you want to play the Kansas tourism ad?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, actually, it's almost midnight.
It's a little risque. Is anyone in here under the age of 18? How old are you,
Mm.
friend? Okay. Old enough to lie to me, so obviously not under 18. Here we go. Just bear with me, okay?
No. Hi. Yes. No.
Bonjour.
Yes. No.
Hola.
Yes. Remember, bestiality is illegal in Virginia, Iowa, Missouri, Wyoming, and Oregon.
This message is brought to you by the Kansas State Department of Tourism.
I played that to a campground full of like, I don't know, about 500 people. I don't think a single person caught that joke. I was so proud of it. Anyway, now it is officially 12 a.m. and it is time, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second biannual True Stories of the MAGFest Staff panel. Woo-woo. I am your host. Yes, indeed. You may applaud. I'm your host, Josiah Tillett. I'm MAGFest's Division Head of Staff Services. I have to read it off. I don't remember what I am anymore. Department Head of Staffing Operations. Sitting next to me, well, there's a lot of people in the room. We have a lot of storytellers here tonight, so we're just going to do like a little bit of a cycling phase. Sitting next to me is Jason Spriggs, who's on the next slide. We call him Just-in-Time Jason. He's one of our hotels and tech ops staffers. And he's also, if you went to his panel last night, an erotica aficionado.
Yes.
Loves reading that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I mean, why else would you?
Sitting next to Jason is Carrie Schneider, number 3 on the bullet points. Department head. Oh, I said Schneider, didn't I?
Snyder.
I know. How Schneid.
Like the pretzel.
You like the pretzels?
Anyway, Carrie Snyder. She's going to be one of our storytellers tonight. She's the department head of Arcade, has been in charge of Arcade for quite a long time, has accumulated quite a few stories. That tends to be one of the crazier places of the event. And she is also, as of probably February-ish of 2021, the president of the MAGFest Board of Directors.
I'm sorry.
And as of about an hour ago, the ower of one screen to Killer Queen to one of our vendors.
No, that kid that did it owes him. Somebody punched
Sitting
a
next.
Killer Queen. Yeah. Somebody punched a Killer Queen screen. But he admitted it to us and said he threw his hat at it. What the hell kind of hat is that? And also, his hat must have curiously been oval shaped, like.
Yeah.
So anyway, if any of you guys see a kid at this event, you just go up there and you just deck them, okay? Consider it payback on that
Can't have nice
whole
things.
class.
We had five.
My lawyer has advised me I should not have made that joke, and that you guys should probably not punch children, okay?
Probably.
They're in my ear. I'm
The
listening on my
board
radio
does not
right now,
endorse
okay?
punching children.
Officially. Nothing that is said on this panel is absolutely official. In fact, many of these are actually fake stories that happened in GTA Online, in case the hotel's watching this.
Yes.
Okay, just so you guys know. But sitting next to Carrie is one of our other storytellers. Flip back over. This is all out of order. Mark Bernan, who's one of the department heads of Tech Ops, and also the event chair for MAGStock, along with Tim Kainsbauer, who's not here at the time. But he's one of our storytellers. And then beyond that as well, we have on the far side, Bunny Smith, who is the department head of consoles, and challenges, and one of the crazy, crazy places of MAGFest. All right. She's also one of the former members of the MAGFest board of directors, so she's got a ton of good stories from that area too.
Do you?
So, real quick, let's talk about MAGFest.
Wait, what about CY?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Then
Then there's some asshole in the back.
Wearing a captain hat.
Yeah, I know, right? No,
could-
wait, no, it's Deb. It's Deb.
We can talk about people when they show up, or we can talk about them right now.
Okay.
So our storytellers for tonight, CY, hotel staffer. He's generally a malcontent, so he's got some great stories. He's been around for quite a long time.
Definitely chaotic. Chaotic.
Yep. And then rounding out the night, as soon as anyone can find her and bring her here, because security's really busy right now, is Rebecca, also known as Rebar. She is one of our security leads here at MAGFest, and is also in charge of MAGStock security. So they've also got some pretty good stories. All right, so let's just generally talk about what MAGFest is. If any of you guys were at opening ceremonies, we went over this. But if you are new, MAGFest is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to making the world a better place through video games. We function basically almost entirely off of volunteer support and labor. The event that you see, turn off the radios. 9 people in the room just got a ping at the same time. We're volunteer run by the community for the community. That's different than a lot of the cons that you'll see, like PAX or like some of the anime conventions, in that sense that they are maybe run by like a company or a business, like an events company. MAGFest is kind of built around, as an events company, is built around running MAGFest specifically. In MAGFest 2020, we had our record number. We had 24,490 attendees, according to the metric that I looked at. The metrics sometimes are a little bit off, so that might not be entirely true, but that's the number I have. and we had 1,027 staffers. So 1,027 people on site who were a multi-year volunteer, had been here for one year or longer. This year, as of 3:43 a.m. this morning when I wrote this, we had 9,670 people checked in. I believe we are now officially over 10,500, which is actually, that's like a milestone for us this year, is trying to break that 10,000 number. And we have, I have no idea how many staffers. You guys might have noticed that we are in the middle of an ongoing pandemic. And
What?
yeah.
What?
It's something about your faces. I can't see any of them. But what ends up happening is that planning for this event has just been kind of a nightmare. We went from having a really dedicated core group of staff. We had our office that kind of worked for the events company that was running the company year-round, was also really heavily involved in planning, and we were getting really solid and on top of running MAGFest, the show, doing the innovation, kind of spitballing up new ideas, kind of refining the core central pillars of the event, like our operations, our gaming rooms, so on and so forth. And then that all just completely stopped. In March 2020, none of us thought that MAGFest 2021 was going to be canceled. In July 2020, none of us thought that MAGFest 2020 was going to be canceled. It probably took us up until about September-ish before the writing was on the wall enough that we felt comfortable enough to make a call one way or the other. It might have actually been a little later, but it took us a long time before we realized that. And at that point, we had to do a lot of event shuttering and just kind of taking things offline. And coming back from that has been fairly stressful, fairly difficult. People, when you break a cycle like an annual event, what we've discovered is that people just tend to forget about you. Being in the middle of a pandemic, people are also, they have very valid safety concerns. So what ends up happening was we've seen like a fairly significant reduction in attendance, which, you know, for those of you who are here is great because no lines at arcade machines. That's awesome. And, you know, more space to socially distance. But what that means for us as people who are on staff is that we have about 80% the work of MAGFest Super, even scaling back a bit, with about 40% the staff. That's kind of the number I've been throwing out the spitball when I tell people like how tough this has been on us this year. So if you guys see a staffer, make sure that you take a moment and just like give them like a marshmallow high five, like one of those air high fives, and just tell them that you appreciate them because they are really busting their asses to make this event happen for you guys. Thank you all. So that being said, let's get started with some of our stories. This is going to be the Truth on Tap. I'm going to pull up my Slack and take a look at what we've got going on. I believe, Bunny, you're actually first in line, so if you want to go ahead and get ready to start telling some of your stories, go for it. You want to talk about maybe perhaps the pantsless dude, the story of the missing pants?
So the thing you have to understand about console room is many of my managers are over 6 feet. I happen to be 5'4". I also happen to be console's official like bouncer. So they like to call me at 2 o'clock in the morning to deal with scary personalities. Back in the Mark Center days, we had arcades sort of mixed with consoles in the same sort of area. So of course at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, you would have people very drunk playing on whatever they could find. I get the call, I'm woken up and I'm like, what do you guys want, honestly? And they go, we can't remove someone. And I said, I'm sorry, they're not glued to the floor, you can remove them. They go, no, you don't understand. They're really drunk and we really cannot move them. Every time we try, they have no bones. So I said, okay, all right, I'm coming, I'll put pants on, let's go. So I get down there and I find this guy who is without shirt, without shoes, and without pants. All he's wearing is some lovely boxer shorts with turtles on them. It was very cute. We also have him with his 2 friends on either side, also trying to pull him off of this arcade machine, and absolutely nothing is working. So I walk up to him and I go, hey dude, how's it going? He goes, dude, it's great, I love it here. And I go, that's awesome. Like, are you winning? He goes, yeah, man, I win all the time. Like, I'm sure you do. Uh-huh. So I said, well, it's about that time. He says, what time? And I go, well, time's that thing that moves with passage and like world. Right, okay. He says, well, what do you mean? And I go, well, you're not fitting in here. And he goes, how not? And I go, well, you gotta understand, it's pants o'clock and you're underdressed, man. He immediately looks down, gets this frightened look on his face and goes, oh shit, and takes off running like a sprinter out the room. His friends are like, thanks, and just take off after him. He runs down the entire corridor, through the rest of the hotel and up somewhere, and I heard from multiple staffers that they just see this guy with no pants and no shirt on just sprinting through the entire hotel. He was really sad about pants o'clock, man.
Is pants o'clock at different times in different time zones?
I think so, yes.
I wanna focus on some of the imagery. Like, was he like legitimately sprinting, like giblets jistling in the wind?
I mean, he had boxers, so I couldn't tell, but yes, legitimately sprinting.
I have a good story that's gonna have to wait for another year because I don't like to tell stories from the current year, but I have absolutely seen volunteers I did not want to see in their underwear this event so far. So that is not a surprising story to me in the slightest. Yeah. Buddy, how long have you been with us in consoles?
15 years.
15 years. Holy shit. So you were definitely in charge back at the Mark Center. What was the transition to like coming here to the Gaylord like for you?
The transition to the Gaylord was actually really difficult for us because we didn't really know what the power situation was going to be. What you have to understand about the Mark Center was it was kind of a hotel and kind of a flop house at the same time. So the beauty of it was we could put all of our stuff in a ballroom and it looked kind of nice. The bad part was we blew the breakers every hour to hour and a half. So when we got to the Gaylord, we said, great, we're going to have a modern hotel, we're going to have all of this power, it's going to be wonderful. Unfortunately, what we didn't know is they did not adequately mark the leaks in the roof. So our first year here, MAGFest X, we ended up sharing our Expo Hall slice with the lovely arcades. And we tried to make sure that, like in previous years, our next-gen consoles were separate from the arcade machines so we weren't drawing too much power. What that unfortunately meant was the distro box that we had going from the pole was right under one of the roof leaks. So we ended up blowing out all of our PS2 collection because the power managed to fry the giant power cable with the leak coming down on it, and we blew everything in the back half of the room. So yeah, a little rough transition for us.
Yeah. Sorry, we're trying to figure out where rebar is. I was talking to our security head today, or one of our security heads. He looks at me, he's like, I got to stop you for a second. As I'm walking to this panel, and I go, what is it? And he goes like, it's drunk o'clock. Or
yeah.
It's drunk fest, I think is what he actually said. And I go, what do you mean? He says like, I just had to stop a staffer who was like passed out maskless and pull their badge. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. All right, I'll be back after this panel's done. So know that as soon as I'm done with this panel, I'm going to like go rip someone a new asshole.
And drunk o'clock happens still to this day, like every year. This is kind of your story because it's arcades, but I'm not sure that you were there yet. But also at MAGFest X, we finished the weekend in glorious fashion when somebody decided to get drunk on stilts and play DDR and break their leg. So that was fun.
That's like a
Please do
wombo
not
combo.
do that ever. It was great.
So, Bunny, when you submitted your form for this this thing, you left a couple of other interesting stories. What was the Lobster photo shoot?
So I don't know if any of you actually got to see this. Yes. So the Lobster, I'm not sure how this happened. I still would really like to question Reg on this, but a few years back, one such attendee brought a lobster, like a live one, about yay big to the fest, and it somehow acquired its own badge. I'm really not sure what kind of ID a lobster brings. That's all I gotta say. But anyways, somebody thought it was really great. So one of the people that was doing the cosplay shoots, sort of in the atrium level, decided that a lobster with its own badge needed its own photo shoot as well. So if you can pour back on Facebook in like MAGFest 21 or one of the other groups, somewhere there is an atrium picture with the lobster having its photo shoot with the badge. I think they took the rubber bands off of the claws so it was fully prepared for its shoot. But yeah, it had its own badge for the entire weekend. I have no information, however, as to how long it lived. That's all I gotta say.
You know, lobsters can pull some pretty tough strings. You know, they're just full of blue blood.
He returned this year as a staffer.
Oh, good. Good to know.
All right. How about Team Rocket?
Oh, okay. So, every year, up until MAGFest 2020, there is a group of people, and it changes year to year, so I cannot find them, but they dress as one thing. So one year we had a whole bunch of people that dressed as Link, and it was just a roving band of Links. The worst year, unfortunately, was Team Rocket year. So all of them were dressed in the R shirts and doing evil cackles and what have you, and they decided the best way to move through console room was to pick other attendees up and place them in trash cans. So as I came into my shift, I found a console room in complete disarray because we had 6 trash cans all filled with attendees and a whole bunch of Team Rocket just going like this. So I pulled from my playbook at the Mark Center just with pantsless o'clock, and I, of course, stood up on a chair and addressed the entire crowd with Team Rocket blasting off again, and they all went like this, and then they left the room in unison, and it worked. So I used my staff to get the attendees that could not relieve themselves of their trash cans out, and we were fine. But yeah, in case you see everybody dressed up as one group, just stay away from trash cans. That's all I gotta say.
Did you say relieve themselves of their trash
yes,
cans,
of
or
their
relieve
trash
themselves
cans, not
in their trash cans?
Our staff
Okay.
members did not help people relieve themselves in trash cans.
Got it. All right. So at this point, I'd like to ask if anyone has any. We'll do a Q&A session at the end, but you know, Bunny's here, so if anyone, and she's going to have to run off to a shift at some point in some amount of time, because consoles, as everyone is dramatically overworked this event, and Bunny has worked like 1 million hours this year so far, and will mark 1 million more before the end of the year. So does anyone have any specific consoles questions? Anything you're like, why do you do things like this? Or I saw this thing here. Do you want to know why? Feel free to just stand up, shout it. We'll repeat it back.
How do you keep track of inventory?
Oh boy, inventory is an interesting topic for us. So this year you may have seen that we do have all the cages around to make sure that things aren't going anywhere. In general, we actually don't have a system other than, hey, where do we have folders? And we have a drawer that is these folders, these games are all out on the floor. So it's a physical process right now. But we don't actually have a full digital list of everything. And part of the reason for that is MAGFest 8, we lost half of our inventory. So we haven't actually recovered fully from that, and we haven't been able to digitize everything because coming in during the year to the warehouse to do admin work is terrible, let me tell you. We did have a lot of people during MAGFest 2018 who decided to relieve us of inventory, so that was interesting.
Was that the year the dude tried to steal a TV?
Oh yeah, so we had somebody brazenly on Sunday decide, I like this TV. I'm going to take my coat off, throw it over, and maybe no one will notice me walking out with a 27-inch screen under a jacket. He just did it by himself. He then did not like the fact that I was chasing him and had called the police. And we chased him into the arms of the police outside. I saw a hand up over here.
The other year, then we got 3 TVs out of a dumpster.
Well, that too.
Yeah, you know, if I'm going to steal a TV, you're going to do it the right way. 2 TVs and a trench coat, okay?
Yes.
All right, question over here.
So the person who broke their leg
I don't actually have an answer to that, but good question.
He had a Napoleon complex.
Back in the pink? Yes.
Two questions. Follow up to this gentleman. One, were you still a lawyer at the time?
At the time that happened, yes.
Okay. Two, what's your favorite piece of inventory?
Okay, so there are two of my favorite pieces of inventory. One of them is actually a Virtual Boy. So we actually can plug in and play that. The other one is an original copy of Leisure Suit Larry. Because it is just so much fun. Though I will say for shits and giggles, the third place in that one is actually Super Bible Challenge to play it on the NES. And we put that out for every Mag Classic and Mag Labs, and it never goes unplayed. Every time we put it on the floor, people love just crossing the sheep over the river. It's great. Sir, yes?
Have you ever had any very embarrassing technical difficulties?
You mean other than frying our own power cable and our PS2s? Yeah, so we did have one. We had a group that used to come in to run our tournaments for us called NGA, and they became increasingly more concerned with security to the point where their last year here, they were tiny screens with large wooden boxes and huge padlocks. Unfortunately, they were running our next-gen consoles, which needed internet, and the technical snafu was they couldn't actually get into their own locks because overnight the head of the group would go to sleep with the locks with him, like the keys to the locks, so none of his staffers could get in there, and we couldn't reset the systems to actually update them for what we needed. Now we run entirely in-house, so all of our tournaments are run by us, and all of our locks are our own, so we can update things, but yeah, it was a little bit of a snafu.
All right, one more question.
Sir.
Do you recall an incident in, I'm going to say it's MAGFest 2020, where somebody was actually butt naked in the hallway?
Oh, that's a story. We're telling that. We're telling
that's
that
not my
at
story.
some
That's
story.
theirs.
Yeah. Actually, someone needs to go find Rob Scullin.
Yeah, right.
Tech Ops staff. Whoever has a radio, call Scullin and tell him he needs to talk about the naked guy. Or ping him, yeah.
Can I do one more?
Cool. Yeah, go for it.
Two quick questions. Follow up your presentation.
All right, quick, get your questions out.
A lot of the older students need to run a classic consoles. You just kind of pick them up and you purchase them, you do lot sales.
Hey, shh.
So the question was whether how we come by our older consoles and what we use to get them. The cool part about this is because we are a nonprofit, we do rely a lot on donations, and we've had a lot of people that have been like, I'm not playing this anymore, can you guys use it? And we've been able to take them, which has been awesome. The other thing that we do is we find resale shops that are like, hey, this is broken, and we've got some really talented people who are able to do fixes, so they'll pull parts from one piece and stick it in another. So we've come by our consoles every way possible. We're always looking for new old equipment, particularly if you've got anything for Rock Band, because they don't make those guitars anymore. So, but other than that, yeah, it's either donations or finding resale stuff.
Cool. All right, guys, we're gonna move on from console stuff, but give it up for Bunny. 15 years. Bunny, you're welcome to hang out on stage for a bit. I'm trying to find one thing that got trashed. Speaking of old things that we picked up at MAGFest, I'm going to open up and show you guys.
Oh, God.
You've probably
Mario.
never seen these standees before. That's because they just live at the MAGFest warehouse. Okay, COI is going to talk about these probably in a little bit. I'll get him up here on stage to talk about it. But just speaking of like collecting other people's trash, we got that Mario and this Sonic, and moving them has not been a pleasant option. So we're going to get COI up here to talk about that in a bit. But I just want to give you guys a little bit of promo on that. All right.
I would also like to note Rob Scullin has entered the room.
Rob Scullin, please approach the stage. No, I don't want to. We need... You never gave me the write-up on Naked Guy.
As your boss, get up here.
So I need you to tell me about what happened with the Naked Guy from 2020.
Oh.
Considering you were actually awake at 7 a.m.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, approach the microphone if you would. Hear your lovely baritone.
But I don't want to.
Okay, that's fine.
At least someone does.
So yeah, last MAGFest, I guess around, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning?
Sounds
Wandering
real
the
early.
halls because, you want to do something, but you just wander around because there's nothing else to do. Some guy just went running by completely naked through that hallway up the steps to Chesapeake. And I was like, well, okay, sure, it's MAGFest, why not? Walked away, 5 minutes later, come back. 2 cops went up and just followed him up the steps. And he tried to argue with the cops about why it was okay to be naked in the Gaylord. It doesn't work. They decided to escort him out. I have no idea what happened. There was a lot of yelling. Turns out arguing with the cops while naked doesn't really work.
Yeah, and now let me show you this, if I can, without revealing too much of our screenshots. I just looked up Naked Guy in our Slack instance.
It was on Reddit.
I don't have a photo, but I do have this.
Someone posted a picture on Reddit, I think, 2 years ago.
Yeah, there's a photo. Yeah, I need to look it up, but January 4th, 2020, 4:49 a.m. from Robert Scullin. Reading it off, it says, saw 4 officers headed towards a very naked guy walking up to the National Harbor. He's now yelling at the cops. I came out around this time. I didn't see the naked guy run by, but what I did see was him being walked out of the hotel by the police. They had brought some kind of covering for him, so he was no longer naked, thank God. A lot of Ghibli bits. And the whole time he's screaming, it sounds like he thinks he's a POW or something, because he's talking about my name is Jeremy blah 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 and my serial number is blah 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 blah. Just being incredibly belligerent to the police. And then we never saw him again. It was great. Something worked.
Maybe.
If that man was a Terminator, he was way too wrinkly for that. Yeah, defective Terminators, that's right. All right, Rob, thank you so much for telling that story. Hey, this is Rob Scullin, one of our department heads of technical operations.
Hello.
He is a phenomenal individual who, for years, has just put up with an inane amount of bullshit relating to networking and everything. How many of you guys came to last night when I mistaken the wrong panel? You remember me talking about how he beamed internet from a house across the street? He was one of the guys that was directly involved in that year after year. Actually, 3 of these people on stage were.
It got very cold outside.
Very cold. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when LAN tried to run fiber however many years ago? Do you know that story well enough to tell it?
Tried to? They did.
They got too cold.
No.
Wait, I thought the truck ramps
they got all moved and they didn't set anything up. So
okay.
We had a point-to-point link from the back of our loading dock to someone's house because we got internet from someone's house.
It's much cheaper to get it that way.
Yeah. And LAN was unhappy with the bandwidth we had, so they were like, well, what if we just run fiber from here to some guy's house? And they got as far as to getting outside before realizing that it was very cold, and they were okay with not that much bandwidth.
And that's the story.
It turns out it's much easier for us to just pre-populate the LAN cache at the warehouse and then ship the whole rack to the Gaylord.
Well, and then we got internet here. So.
That's true.
Yeah. And for the less technically astute, what that means is they just download all the Steam games to a server and then drive it here. Yeah, it's great. Yes, CY.
Also, it's just too cold is the LAN guy's reaction whenever they open a door.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you live in that space with that many sweaty animal people, absolutely. That many it's not the computers.
It's the sweat.
There's a lot of
There's a lot of hammocks.
really hot people in there, and I do not mean attractive. I mean, yeah. All right, Rob. I'm sorry I pulled you up here. You're welcome. Feel free to hang out for a bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass the mic now over to
Thank you.
one Mr. Mark Murnan, who's going to regale us with a long-form story about the saga of a particular Magstock attendee known by many names. We called him Weed Juice Kid. We called him Whippets Man. We called him Shit Wizard.
Yeah.
We called him so many things. Ladies and gentlemen, the terrific tale of Tony Maloney.
Not a real name, just so you know.
We should also probably invite Hachi up for now. All right, never mind.
It was not like that when I tested it
Damn it.
earlier.
Oh, it's good now.
No.
Please hold.
Your tech ops. How did you get this wrong?
Do you have a photo of
Where's Rob Scullin?
Do you have a photo of Shit Wizard's staff?
You're being heckled.
What do I want? Do you have a photo of Shit Wizard's staff?
The beer can staff?
Yeah.
I don't think that was Shit Wizard. I think that was actually like an okay, nice attendee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, while Mark's trying to cue this up, let me tell
You
you
guys
about
should
my...
all strive to be okay, nice attendees, by the way.
Let me tell you about my first interaction with this guy. One of my first Magstocks, I was helping out by driving around in, if any of you guys know him, Charles Lore, his truck passing out water bottles to people who were actually hot, not attractive hot, and asking if they
Like
could
about
do
a
anything.
peel over.
And I'm passing out water bottles, and this guy walks up to the truck. I give him a water bottle, and he goes, "Thanks, man." And he holds up some kind of like spray squirt bottle full of this brown liquid, and he goes, "Want some weed juice?"
Dude guy had like whole ass bottle of bong water. It was.
He's just sipping it.
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
I'm gonna send you my PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I just broke my laptop.
Oh.
What's your tech ups? You can fix it.
This is why you don't get PowerPoints on a Linux machine. Yeah.
Send me your PowerPoint.
Yep. I'll.
Doing it now.
Someday. Do you like my screensaver? Also, here, see this? This down here, this little logo, the Slack logo? There's 2 notifications right now. Those are 2 messages from people I'm ignoring. If you see that ticker go up, don't tell me.
That's how many fires there are.
That's how many fires there are.
No, they're not. I haven't gotten any messages.
Yeah.
And I'm the mom.
In the meanwhile, Carrie, why don't you regale us with a story from Arcade? Unless Mark, while we're figuring this out, Carrie, could you please tell us about...
Would you like to hear about Lake MAGFest?
Lake MAGFest.
No, I've got photos of Lake MAGFest, so let's wait for that. Can you tell us about the time you got locked in the bathroom?
The time, you mean times. So we have a lovely staffer named Wild Bill. And he is approximately how you would anticipate someone being named Wild Bill. He's amazing, but and maybe later on I'll tell you about meeting him for the first time. It was startling, but we were sitting around, and he asked me if I could print him directions on MapQuest, and this was last MAGFest. And the reason that he needed map directions is he was going to go pick up the land computers, except that he didn't have a cell phone, like he had a flip phone, and he had an actual GPS, but I guess it stopped updating, so it wouldn't show the place that it was. So I was like, yeah, we just have to hook this printer up. So we're like hooking the printer up, and like he was like, I'm not sure how to work this. So I like get up over there and I'm like hooking up the printer. And I turn around and Wild Bill is eating. And I was like, what are you eating? And he's like, oh, Egg McMuffin. And I said, are you eating my breakfast? And I should preface this with, I'm allergic to milk. So in order to get me food, the person that had got me food had to make a lot of specific requests to get me an Egg McMuffin that I could eat. And to be fair, Wild Bill just eats any food that's left, so he didn't really know. And so he was like, I'm so sorry. But at this point, I'm pissed because like anybody trying to get a printer to work is pissed. And like to print in these directions, and he ate my breakfast. Finally, I get the printer to work, and I just like walk off from him, and he's like apologizing because he's genuinely a super nice guy, and he felt ridiculously bad about it. And I'm walking away from him, and he's like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, yeah, this is just don't take food from a fat woman. Like, and I'm mad, and I go to the bathroom, and this was during load-in, so there were still a lot of other non-MAGFest people here. They had like all the Christmas things, so the bathroom, like every stall was filled. And I go to the very end stall, and if you're have ever gone into the women's bathroom in the expo halls, like their stall doors don't touch the ground. They're only connected at the top, and they sway. And I went into the last stall, which was a mistake because I'd done this the previous day, the last stall, and when the next person came in beside me, it shifted everything, and the lock unaligned, and the door got stuck. And the previous day, the exact same thing had happened, and the other department head, who was a dude, had to come help me. But it was like at 3 a.m, so it didn't matter. But now I'm in this bathroom with like 9 million people, and the whole time I had been on my phone with our executive director, Deb, and I was like, well, Bill ate my breakfast, and blah. And she was like, oh, I have a granola bar. And then I'm like, I'm stuck in the bathroom. Can you come get me? So she of course came down like laughing, and right as she got there, the person in the stall next to me came out, and it shifted the stuff back, and I was able to unlock the door. But she was like dying laughing. Moral of the story, don't go in the last stall in the women's bathroom.
We have a lot of stories about Wild Bill tonight. Just FYI, he is truly a character of MAGFest. He was unfortunately unable to be here with us. He has since, he's not dead or anything. He just couldn't make it to the event.
He's not dead.
He's no longer with us.
He's just doing other things.
Yeah. But I did message him and get his blessing to share as many stories as we want. They are all shared with nothing but love for this guy. He is truly one of the craziest people we know at MAGFest, and we love him so much. I wish I could show you a picture of him. But basically imagine a tall, blonde guy with long hair and a gigantic beard, like about as hillbilly, hipstery as you can get, drives a motorized bicycle. Like not a motorcycle, a bicycle with a motor on
that
it.
He put on there. He strapped it on.
He's
and it's a gas-powered motor.
Doesn't he have a doctorate?
He has a master's degree, yeah.
Master's degree. He also is fluent in Spanish and like Cyrillic. Or Russian, sorry.
Yeah, he is one of the top people in the entire world on Duolingo, like in like 4 different languages. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bill does everything himself.
I actually have a picture of that bike because he sent me that picture of that when he asked me to be the person to control his Facebook after he died.
Yes. Conspicuously, as soon as he straps a motor to his bicycle, he messages Carrie and says, hey, if I die, please you can have access to my Facebook to like control it. Over his wife and stepson.
Yeah, the dude's married. So, yeah.
All right. I think it's about time. Let's, ladies and gentlemen, listen to the baritone voice, everyone's baritone tonight, of Mark Murnan and the terrific tale of Tony Maloney.
So, this is the terrific tale of Tony Maloney, also known as Don't Do Drugs, Kids. So let's talk about the setting. The year was 2017. The setting was Magstock 7, Nerds in the Woods. Anyone been to Magstock? Great. Yeah, you should definitely come. We had to cancel the last 2 years for obvious reasons. We're bringing it back. We'll probably be at Ramblewood. It's going to be awesome. You should come.
There'll be arcades.
Tony was one of our attendees, and he had friends in a band. And one of the things that we did back then is basically depending who you were, you'd be able to buy one of the limited cabins or rent out one of the limited cabins on the campground and stay there for your duration if you weren't like a huge tent person. What Tony didn't have, what Tony didn't have was a lot of money, and we expected the friends of the band to like be the ones to pay for the cabin, and he never communicated this to us. So we had booked out the cabin. It was available for him. No one paid for it. We ended up paying for it. No one stayed in it. But instead, Tony had to find alternative accommodations, and what he did have is an account on store.usps.com, which, if you're not familiar, allows you to buy, or for free, get as many post office flat rate boxes delivered as you would like. Misusing these said boxes for anything other than flat rate shipping is a federal crime. I do not recommend it, but it is an excellent source of cardboard on short notice. I do not have a before photo, but basically what they'd done is they'd folded up all these boxes, taped them up using the included free tape that was included with them, and built a little igloo in the campground. If you've never been to Magstock, there's one guarantee about Magstock. It will rain. Cardboard is not designed for rain. And yeah, so when I first met Tony Capone, it looked like this. We were at the end of the event, we were loading out, and basically someone had stomped the igloo flat, it had collapsed in the rain, and what you don't see in this photo is lying in the middle there is Mr. Tony completely tripping out of their mind on something, doing very little to help us clean up this box fort. So a bunch of volunteers got to like pack it up. I don't have a ton of good photos, but we flattened the whole thing. We recycled it, don't worry.
We were like 9/10 of the way there to burning it, though.
And him.
Yeah, it was a lot of boxes. And meanwhile, we're loading out the entire event. Like, this is one guy's campsite, and we have everything else in the world to deal with. Yeah, so you're the next slide.
Conspicuously somewhere else, Hachi.
So that's Hachi. He saw Mr. Capone and decided to ask him not to do it again the next year. Think of the environment. We need to recycle this. This is a lot of wasted cardboard. And you didn't ban him, Hachi. No, you didn't ban him, Hachi. The next year. The year was 2018. The setting was Magstock 8. Tony shows up with a U-Haul. So he's figured out his accommodations. There's just one detail. The rental was up on Saturday. We ran until Sunday. So they took the U-Haul back, no problem. Returned it well on time. But they left all the stuff. There's a mattress that they just kind of left on the ground. They used a tarp to cover it, I guess.
And themselves. They slept under the tarp.
Yeah, and also he never paid for his badge. So I got to track him down and whole thing, getting him and his wives to pay for their badges.
Wives.
That's as much clarification as I have. I'm sorry.
Do we have a contender for another wife?
We managed to get the female members to pay for their badges, fortunately, pulling cash from every compartment of the car had a few dollars in it. They got it together though. And he managed to so the same reason he was able to be on a cabin, he had friends with some nebulous friendship with a performer. They add him as +1, which is something we had in the contract. And as I mentioned, there's one guarantee about Magstock. It rains. He did not have a tent, he had a mattress. Sorry, I see a hand.
There was at least a sheet of acid.
All of it. All of it.
At least. So many whippets.
Yeah. So we were loading out. His mattress is sitting on the ground. He's laying on the mattress. We basically just didn't deal with him. He disappeared sometime after we left. This is when the campground formally trespassed him from the property. He's no longer welcome there. And they dealt with the mattress for us, thankfully. I did not want to touch that thing. They had front-end loaders and stuff that we don't have. Yeah, and I just want to mention a quick random aside. While I was looking through this period of Magstock, I also stumbled across this message in our Slack. I'll just leave that without comment.
He did go around hiding in the. He did go around hiding in the bushes during the course of the event.
This is a different person.
This is a separate person. I was just like going through the same time period as Slack, and I just thought you needed to know that.
Yeah.
So finally, we ban him formally. We send him a nice form letter. We do all the record keeping. You can see some of the things that we had issues with, including the drug usage. It turns out acid, when it's on the ground and wet, is very hazardous.
And also absorbs through the skin.
Yeah. So this is when we finally put his name into Google. So, so he's just sort of sitting there in his car, big knife on the dashboard. Starts slowly driving around the campground, making a big loop, trying to sort of dodge all the staffers who are following him with radios at this point. Fortunately, we called the sheriff, and because he made the big loop instead of like making a beeline for the exit, the sheriff saw him as he was leaving, and that's important. They pulled him over a mile down the road. He gave the sheriff the name Tony Maloney. As I mentioned, not his real name. That's also important. We had great experience with Mr. Maloney, and we were able to identify him positively. We had the formal, like the letter we'd sent him, the campground had trespassed him, and he went to jail.
Turns out you get charged for identity theft if you give a false name.
So that's about my story. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So I do want to throw out there, remind me, did you get an email from him at some point?
Yeah.
In response?
Part of what happened with the court date is he was. So I was actually friends with him on Facebook through most of this. I don't actually know why. I could probably go through the history or something, but I didn't really want to revisit that. So the only reason that we're not currently friends on Facebook is part of the judgment against him is he had to leave all social media. He is back though, so if you want to see a really fascinating profile, you can find him. Most of this is public record. What's that?
Is it under Tony Maloney?
No, it's not. You'll have to do
The world
some
may
research.
never know.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the terrific story of Tony Maloney. Does anyone have any questions relating to this wonderful tale?
I think everybody has questions.
Senor Aaron?
Well, we weren't able to ban them, so I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
We spent a long time trying. If they recur, we'll get them. Yes.
Did the clown actually kill him?
No, he was just dressed as someone who looked like they may have. He was jumping people. It was bad. Yes.
How long is a long time?
A long time for which thing?
The killer clown guy.
I want to say a couple hours. So it was basically he like surprised one of the campground staffers and like, so okay, I guess I'll tell this story. Guy in like full makeup, like tons of fake blood, I hope, all over his face, like big knife, jumps one of the campground staffers and surprises them. That's a huge no-no. If you learn one rule at MAGFest, it is do not fuck with the venue. We care about the venue a lot more than you. No offense. So he's on a very short list at this point. And we were trying to figure out who he was, calm him down, get him away from people. And so for like a couple hours, a couple of our staff were just trying to like smooth talk him, keep him away from people, isolated. But I don't think we ever got his name. That was something we were really trying for because MagStock is outdoors. We don't have like nice printed badges or anything because you're like jumping in lakes and whatever. So we don't actually have a great way to ID you unless you have like your wallet on you. And he was in costume, not in something with pockets. Yeah, so I don't think we got that on site. I don't know the details offhand.
I refuse to believe that a guy dressed as a clown with cars like that would not have a pocket capable of carrying a wallet, regardless of size.
Yeah, I don't know.
Clown pockets are a thing. Give me some of that. What's the word? Clussy? I don't know.
What?
No. Sorry, this is the wrong panel for that. Giblets and everything.
I do want to.
Yes, we were not recorded. Aaron, you're gonna have to do some editing on this, okay? I'm sorry. Mom, when you're watching this, I want you to know I did go to church on Sunday.
And I do want to say, generally, MAGFest events are safe. We work very hard for that. We try to make this our problem, not your problem. But we just thought you should know what we deal with.
Yeah. And that is truly the extent of the issue. A lot of the shit we talk about, many of you will either have seen in passing, well, not have seen in passing, but could have seen in passing, but would have no idea like the true extent of the story. All right, sir, one more question.
How did you come to the conclusion that he had multiple wives?
This was self-reported.
And the people that he was with did not disagree with this.
Right.
So.
All right, great. So
I don't judge for that. I judge for literally everything else.
Okay, guys, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Mark Murnan. All right, well, I switch back over to my other PowerPoint. Carrie, let's revisit a character from MAGFest history. Could you tell me about the first time you met Wild Bill?
Yes, I can.
Mark, could you hand me my Dr. Pepper?
Wild Bill and I actually, the same year was our first MAGFest. So the first year that we ever worked MAGFest was our first year. And at the time, obviously, I was not arcade department head, but I was good friends with the existing arcade department head. And he was like, yeah, I can give you a badge if you help me load some trucks and everything. And I had a hotel room starting Thursday, but I get a call from him on Wednesday, and he's like, hey, do you know where Kilmarnock, Virginia is? And I'm from the southern part of Virginia, and Kilmarnock is like the part of Virginia that's like close to the bay, but on the mainland. And so I literally, like, he said, I rented 2 light stands from a dude in Kilmarnock. If you get the light stands and bring them to me, I'll give you some crash space. And I said, okay, that's fine. So I go and get these light stands, and it's so far in the middle of nowhere that on my way to MAGFest, I never made it to the interstate. Like, it was just all back roads, like up into Northern Virginia and then to here. So I show up, I give him the light stands, we're hanging out, we're setting up the arcade, and we eventually go back to a room at like 2 a.m. And he has one of the executive suites, which is like, if you've never seen them, they have like a bedroom with a king bed, and then there's like a little living room area that has like a dining room and like a couch area. And there were like 14 people in this room. And I'm like dead tired. And so eventually me and another guy, Ben, who had brought pen balls for the arcade, we decide we're gonna lay down in the like dining room area opposite each other using moving blankets from the back of one of our trucks as our bed. And so we lay down, and like maybe an hour later, I'm like barely asleep because everybody's still up like playing a handheld Neo Geo thing because we're giant fucking nerds. And it's the light is on, and like I had the blanket pulled over my head so like to get rid of the light, and I hear a noise and a commotion, and I like pull the blanket down, and I like facing Ben, and Ben is doing this. He's like motioning like no. And I was like, what? And I should have listened to Ben, but when I like pulled my blanket down and looked, there is a man walking from the bathroom to the bedroom, butt-ass naked, and he stops to talk to them who are playing the games, and his hair, he has like long hair, but it's like in knots, and he's just drunk and talking to them, and that lovely man was Wild Bill. And then he went into the bedroom and went to sleep. And what he had been doing in the bathroom is somehow he had gotten cockleburrs in his hair, and he was using Gojo soap, which if you know what that is, it's this soap that removes like grease, so it's like gritty and green, to get the cockleburrs out of his hair, which he was not successful in. Not at least with that soap, but yeah.
Yes.
Was it orange or cherry?
I'm not sure. Like, a side note to that story, another one of our managers showed up later and decided she would dye her hair in the same bathroom. And she dyed her hair red, and it was like all over the bathroom. And the department head at the time, Ethan, went into that bathroom, and all he saw was Gojo's soap and like what he thought was blood everywhere. And he was like, what happened in here? Like,
So, Bill's an interesting person to house in MAGFest. If you know anything about how we do like staffing, 30 hours of volunteering, and if you're a returning volunteer, will make you eligible for staff crash space. It's not a free room; it's crash space. We take 4 volunteers and we sign them to a room together, so 2 to a bed, and sometimes. If you've got a good community of friends, you can all request each other on similar nights and get roomed together. If you don't know each other, you sometimes just get roomed with like a rando. And 99% of the time, that's fine. But most of the time, some of the time you get roomed with Wild Bill. Wild Bill specifically requests a room in a certain block because he knows the housekeeping staff. He has made friends with them. And year after year, he comes back and he puts in his hotel request, give me a room between like room 2000 and room 2000 or 2100, because that's what Rosita cleans. If you remember, Bill is fluent in Spanish. So he's made friends with all of the housekeeping staff. They know him by name. This is a hotel with 2,000 rooms. The cleaning staff is gigantic. He has this propensity to just show up with stuff that people need because he's just gone and asked like a random employee in Spanish in the back hallway for it, and they've just given it to him.
Or he's wandered into the bowels of the Gaylord and found it.
Yes.
Wait, the interesting thing about him knowing the cleaning staff is that last MAG, we were like smack up against the New Year's party. So the turnover for the hotel rooms was like a short time. And if you've ever been here when the New Year's party is, you think we fuck up the Gaylord? Oh, they have one night and they do way more damage than we do.
They have to use rototillers in the ballrooms where LAN and the concerts are to actually pick up the amount of trash that is.
And
It's
vomit.
like ankle deep.
Yeah.
They bring the yard equipment into the ballroom. It's bad.
So they were having trouble flipping over rooms in time for attendees and staffers to get their rooms. And we're like in the arcade and we turn around and we're like, where is Wild Bill? And he's been gone for like hours. He was helping the cleaning staff turn over the rooms. Like he was cleaning rooms like with them. He replaced a mirror on the wall that was broken. Like,
this is a volunteer at MAGFest. He's not paid by the hotel. He's just such a fascinating person.
Wait, can I tell the after MAGFest story about him and what he asked the cleaning staff to do?
Sure.
After MAGFest, Wild Bill would have the cleaning staff take any hard alcohol left behind in hotel rooms and set them out in the hallway, and he walks around with a garbage bag and picks them up. And has free alcohol for a year.
Rumor has it he takes it, he mixes it all together into some kind of jungle juice, and that's what Tony Maloney drinks. It's great. It's just so wonderful. All right, guys, I'm warning you, just so you know, we love hanging out with you, but it is 1 a.m., so the official time for this panel has ended. We'll be hanging out here because we're the last thing in here, so we're just going to go until we're done. But if you had other content you wanted to watch at 1 a.m., like a concert or something, here's your warning on time. As Aaron gets up and
I was like, Aaron, come on, dude.
Aaron,
okay.
Everyone give it up for Aaron. He's
he got me Wi-Fi in the arcade.
Aaron is like an up-and-coming tech ops staffer. It can be really hard to break into new communities. We have like a gigantic volunteer pool here of like, 1,200 people or so. And, we can sometimes develop into cliques. Aaron started volunteering last year and has just like somehow managed to weasel his way into like all of the coolest inner circles. Like,
I will say it's mostly because he takes awesome photos of my cat. definitely like 12 out of 10 would recommend.
Mm-hmm. And now he gets to do stuff like that. Used to be you'd be cleaning those chairs.
Yeah.
All right. What other stories do we have on the register? Okay. The what?
Bidet dishes.
The bid. I said, do not ask me about bidet dishes. Or drunk people. The bathtub of gazpacho.
How about, do we want to go over some of the Mark Center stories?
We can go over, well, yes, Mr. Marinelli.
That saucy boy?
The Curries?
No, Furries.
Oh, that's on the register. That is a tent post story here at this event. What I'll do real quick is I'll just go ahead and I'll show you guys some photos, just to kind of like break up the monotony of like this just verbal storytelling with some visual storytelling, and then we'll have CY come up and share some of his stories, and then I think we have the McFleury story,
Lake
MAGFest, and the McFleury story. And then we'll probably be on set to do just a little bit more of like general Q&A, and then we'll be good to go. That'll probably take like another 30, 45 minutes. So just so you guys have some awareness of time. I see you. As soon as I said 45 minutes, you're like, my commitment is over. I'm free. Anyway, here's our first photo.
Mr. Bones.
That's at our warehouse. This is what happened to Tony Maloney.
Actually, it was one of his wives.
We accumulate just some really random shit. Bunny was talking about some of the old consoles we got. I showed you the old standees of like Mario and Sonic. At some point, we got a like life-size skeleton in the warehouse that was just in the way, constantly in the way. We would try to clean and we'd have to move it all the time. And eventually one day we were doing some spring cleaning and someone goes, you know what? It's time. They walk outside. They walk the 50 feet to the dumpster. They take it and they go, ah! And it lands just like that. And we go, that's good enough.
I think I actually know where that comes from, but that's a story for another time about a staffer that did some scamming.
Yeah. Anyway, the police didn't come for that, which was really shocking. All right. Here's our next just kind of miscellaneous photo. Speaking of broken Killer Queen screens, that is not a homeless man sleeping on an arcade cabinet.
It's Squid.
That is Squid, one of our arcade staffers. I think he hasn't been around in a while, but this was during loadout one year. He got very tired. Squid is a tired boy, and decided to take a nap in the one place that he had. Rather than any of the empty floor space, he decided that legitimately sleeping on a Killer Queen cabinet was a great thing to do. So we got that photo. He slept. It's not like that was a posed photo. He was asleep for.
And he ended up back at the warehouse.
Yeah, loaded onto a truck. Slept the whole 45-minute drive.
All the way around the Beltway.
All the way around the Beltway and made it all the way back. All right. And this is one that's more near and dear to my heart. Okay, the year that we had the first True Stories panel, 2019, there was a bit of a meme that got started.
Yes. Yes.
If any of you guys are around for it, it was this poster.
Yes. So, do you want me to just tell this one?
I mean, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, basically, one of our staffers at the time decided it would be a good idea to bring a large format printer, like 3-foot wide rolls of paper. And for some reason, I had found this photo that I had taken of Josiah a little earlier in the day. And Josiah is known for being, well, the worst. And I just decided, when the one time that he does say yes, he can hold up this big poster being like, oh, yes, you've won. So we just decided to print out 10 of these and hide them around the Gaylord. And it turns out if you found all 10 of them, you would come to Tech Ops and be able to get a prize. I don't remember what the prize...
The prize was a signed poster.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Crystal has one, I think. Okay, I gotta find this photo. this poster has like haunted me ever since.
Yes.
So like, this also is a photo from the same event, which is a picture of our volunteer coordinator at the time, Ashley, holding a photo of that guy, our public safety manager, with a photo of the Yes poster
stuck to
from
your
that
face
sign
because
stuck
all
to
the
his face.
paper was also sticky on the back.
Let's see. Yes. DM history with waffles, Y bread. Oh, do you? I will check them out.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so let me actually just unscroll this. Remember how we were talking about notifications? Look where we're up to now. Anyway. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. No. Yes. All right, let me find this one photo real quick, and then we'll move on. Waffles, white bread? No. About a year after the Yes poster came out, oh God, they're all here. About a year after the Yes poster, I got this series of photos from one of our social media staffers. His name's Waffles White Bread. He said, I'm at a house party. This is in October. He's like, a Halloween party at some guy's house in Alexandria. I've never met him before. And he has this poster hanging in his house. Do you know who this is? And I go, no, I don't. I thought I had accounted for all of these. But apparently one got stolen from the Gaylord and is just now hanging in this man's house. It's at a party. I've gotten this photo multiple times. Like, people have gone to parties as far back as like 3 weeks ago at this guy's house and are sending me pictures of it, going like, it's still there to this day. Then I met the guy, and he's this really cool like Twitch streamer type called Dither. We bonded over the fact that he thinks I have a funny face.
Accurate.
But at the time that I had met him, there was another bad photo of me taken. And I'm not going to show you the photo series, but I'll just show you the result of it.
You want the original?
No, I don't want the original.
The original was, just for clarification, this was Josiah had made, I want to say, roughly 7 pounds of mashed potatoes. We used to live together, and he was just shoveling spoonful after spoonful directly into his esophagus of these mashed potatoes. It was, yeah.
At the time, we were developing a new system for like staff housing called Tuber. So eating mashed potatoes and potatoes just became a very big part of like our staff planning presentation that year. And Dither got involved and like did all of these edits. Show me. Did all of these edits. Oh, that's the original. Of me all over the Gaylord eating mashed potatoes.
Where are you in that one?
On the screen.
Oh, on the screen.
No. Wait, where am I? Where's Waldo? Oh, yeah.
Enhance.
These are swell. Anyway, that's okay, and I'll stop revealing my private DM history. But that's a meme. There are no new memes of me this year. I'm very happy to announce, ladies and gentlemen.
We still have one day.
My face is just free and because I'm wearing a mask. You put your fucking phone down, sir. Okay. At this point, I would like to invite up Mark, if you wouldn't mind scooching over so that we can have CY come up the stage to share some stories of MAGFest yore. We'll go back to the old stories. Let me pull up my Slack and see what I specifically want to ask you about. CY is an old staffer who's been around forever, and he's got a ton of very, very strange stories about things that have happened at MAGFest. He actually wasn't able to attend for a while, but has now come back. This is his first year back, so everyone let's give it up for CY.
He's also the keeper of my cat's baby mama, so.
Yeah. I will give $100 to anyone who can guess what his name is, who does not know what his name is.
Wait. Are we going to tell a story about the cat farmer?
The cat farm?
The cat farmer.
No. You see,
where the cats come from.
We're telling MAGFest stories here. All right. CY, I've got a bunch of stories from you, but I think the most important one is going to be hotel jail. Could you please tell me the story of hotel jail?
Are we talking the origin of hotel jail?
The origin of hotel jail.
Hotel jail. 4 years ago, I do the hotel liaison work. I interface directly with the Gaylord. We get a lot of the stuff done. When you puke outside EMS, we call and get that cleaned up.
Glamorous job.
Yeah, it's fun. I see all the cool things you do. So I was sitting outside the ops hallway, communicating with a couple of people and the staffers and communicating things, and I was sitting in front of this one table, and I'm sitting there, and this guy just starts walking over to me, wedges himself between the table and the wall, and leans over me, and just starts telling me, hey, I need you to know, I just got out of hotel jail. You need to know there's a jail in the hotel, and they're putting people in it. And I just got out, and we got to do something about this.
So for clarification, we have a team that's really great called Public Safety.
I was about to get to that. But
yeah.
I think the story's better just without realizing where it ends.
Sure.
Okay. So he keeps leaning over, and he's going like this for a solid minute or two, and he starts getting very frustrated that I don't seem to be taking him seriously. I'm like, okay, sir, yes, thank you. I will look into this. And he finally storms off, shuffles off down towards the elevators. And fortunately, I was able to grab a staffer and say, hey, can you go get Dorsai and just find out what that's about? Because I think he needs some help. And it turned out that Dorsai, our security guys, had already caught him this evening and brought him to the EMS room to lay down, and because he'd obviously had a little too much celebration that evening. And at some point, while laying down in the EMS room, the EMS guys stopped watching him, and he just got up and walked out, and I was the first person he found. So why don't we sign the EMT room as hotel jail? Because that's apparently where it is.
Yeah, I mean, so the room is just covered in plastic because we expect people to throw up in there. So it just looked like a slaughterhouse if you had no context and woke up in this space.
But yeah, this was just, it became a running joke. And then we ended up in the Mark Center, which had a little closet. Oh, no, the dungeon was in a different part of the Mark Center. The Mark Center had a lot of little weird rooms that staffers could get lost in and never be found again.
Some of it was intentional and not caused by just the hotel falling apart.
Well, there was the hotel ghost in the tea room.
Right.
And I think this fine gentleman sent you a picture of one of the prisoners of the hotel dungeon, if you want to show that at some point. So since we discovered that the Mark Center had hotel jail, we also decided that the Mark Center had to have hotel court. Oh, we didn't discuss this. Josiah.
What?
We didn't talk about hotel court or get any of the pictures for that to throw up.
Yeah, let's.
That's another session, I think.
Anyway, here's the hotel ghost. They were doing a seance at some point. It was a thing. We have this space called the tea room for volunteers and staff to go chill out. They go drink tea, they can sit, they can do stuff. But there was this dungeon that was in the tea room. I don't have, Dylan, you sent me a photo of it. I'm gonna. A whole 2? Wow, okay. Man, I'm just plowing through my notifications right now. Jesus, Dylan, you sent me 6 notifications. I'm down to 8 now. Anyway, here's a photo from inside the dungeon. Into the tea room. There's just this hole in the wall. And that's Ashley, our volunteer coordinator at the time.
Yeah, I was about to say, I couldn't quite see, but I could have sworn we had someone smiling very cheerily into that dungeon.
And here's a photo from, this is event space at a venue. From inside the venue down into the dungeon.
So yeah, this was the tea room. There was basically just like a little panel half door on the ground. And when we claimed the room to start setting up, that panel was open and we poked our head in and that's what we found.
So obviously it's haunted.
Yeah, the ladder was already there. Apparently it had been a concern in the past.
Just imagine opening that little panel on the wall and there's a room. Like, yeah.
So obviously it's haunted. And it became an ongoing joke all week to just fuck with the tea room staff by like changing the room while they were gone. And it just got more and more complicated. So this is kind of how it looked at first. All the chairs worshiping a tea kettle, and then eventually ends at this. Let me go back and pull up this other photo. So many notifications. This place could be burning to the ground, and I would not care. I am here to spend it with you. It just kept escalating. Then we got like a tea room board of directors, and it all just kind of got out of hand.
Is the tea room ghost still on Slack?
It might be. Dom's car keys are still on Slack.
No, that was truck keys. That's a whole other story.
Oh no, the truck keys, they're gone. That was like 8 years ago. Anyway, so that's a little brief aside about the tea room at the Mark Center. I think it's time, because we're actually over. And
yeah, and I actually should get back to work at some point.
At some point, can we talk for a hot second about our feud with the astronomers?
Oh yeah, we can talk about the astronomers.
So
I think we won that one, at least the first year.
Oh, absolutely. After Leo, yeah. So fuck astronomers. I always looking up at the sky, trying to look at stars,
trying to delete Pluto,
telling
Pluto. Everyone Santa's not real. I'm not going to name names here.
There was an astronomer conference that for a few years tried to just come in and butt right after us, and we kept having conflicts with them. The first and foremost being that they would start the Monday after MAGFest ended. So while we're trying to load out, these guys are trying to load in, and Mark might be able to attest, but they had like this incredibly aggressive like event management team that was working for them, and they were just all over the place harassing our volunteers.
They had a schedule where they had every 4 years a gathering, and for some reason it was always right after MAGFest. So every 4 years we had like clockwork. We're like, oh wait, shit, the astronomers are back. And that first year was one of the years where we had a really, like we were mentioned earlier, like we had a really aggressive load in because of New Year's Eve. Sometimes we have a really aggressive load out because someone really wants to be in the building on Monday. And this was one of those situations. And we had tried, we coordinated with the Gaylord. We tried coordinating with the astronomers, trying to figure out how we could move around each other and accomplish all this stuff at the same time. But as is inevitable happen, delays happen, change of schedules happen, and conflicts arise, and these guys just really did not want to be very understanding with us or really pay attention to what was in certain contracts, and generally just like give us the space to get out so you can have the building. And that resulted in some confusion at the loading dock. Are we going to bring up that one?
Are you talking about the time that Buffet crushed a car?
Yeah. So one of the senior people at this astronomer federation.
Is this maybe better for a Carrie story, or
were you there for it?
Yeah, it's department head.
Well, but I can do the imitation, because I think I have the story right.
All right, go for it, CY.
I mean, if you,
no,
I will not.
I'll jump in when I need to.
I will not conflict with the president of the board of directors. I like very much staffing MAGFest, and she has never done anything wrong. The arcade is always perfect.
It really is.
Except for the killer queen that somebody punched.
That wasn't me, so I can gladly defer to your expertise on this. So this supervisor for the astronomers didn't really pay attention. Sorry?
Table keeps
Table's haunted.
Oh no, the hotel ghost is back.
Okay.
So this senior person with the astronomy crew decided to pull her car into the loading dock, which you should never pull your personal vehicle into a building's loading dock unless you very specifically have been told you can do so, and you know very specifically where you should put this car. Instead, she pulled it right behind one of our 20-foot Penske trucks.
26 foot.
No, those are 28-footers.
No, they're 26.
They're 26?
26.
Okay.
26 feet is the maximum legal limit that you can drive a truck
Without a
CDL.
Okay.
So MAGFest, instead of just getting a long truck, like a long boy, we just rent dozens of 26-foot trucks.
A lot.
And trust random volunteers to drive trucks with air brakes, basically 18-wheelers with no turn access. And it works great, except for this time.
Would you perhaps like to, Carrie, would you like to perhaps describe who Buffet is to those who may not be aware?
Well,
Who we do not have permission or consent from to shit talk in any way, so feel free to shit talk him.
We definitely do not have
you
any...
might have seen him in the arcade. He's probably wearing jean shorts and a t-shirt. You know when you go to like Ocean City or Virginia Beach and you buy those giant shirts that have like a woman in a bikini and it's supposed to look like you? That's what he's typically wearing.
It's either that or a shirt that is so torn up it's just a series of rags duct taped together.
But he's one of our longtime arcade collectors that has been with MAGFest for years and years and years.
And we also have to be clear. He is like 6'7", or like he is a literal hill giant.
No, because he's smaller than Colton, and so he's like 6'2", I think, 6'2" or 6'3".
Big. I had to fit him in my car. He's pretty big, I assure you.
And his name is Buffet because he's literally like I've been to IHOP with him, and he's eaten 3 entrees in one go, and the salads and soups that go with them. I've also been to an actual buffet with him, and they asked him to leave because he had eaten too many crab legs.
All you can eat crab legs.
Yeah.
Do you remember his exact grenadine mix at Chili's?
I don't.
I forget what it is, but there's some exact mix of how many cups of grenadine and how many cups of something else he wants to make his tea. And woe behold the Chili's server who gets that wrong. But now that we've described Mr. Buffet, he, like as Carrie said, he is one of the people who contributes the largest numbers of arcades to MAGFest, especially over its early years. And he was very involved in loadout because obviously these are his machines. And at one point, he is asked to move one of the trucks somewhere else on the loading dock because it was parked in front of one of the levelers we needed, and we needed to get another truck in there. And he was asked to move the truck. So he hops into the truck, starts it up, puts it in reverse, hits the gas, and suddenly realizes, I'm hitting the gas and it's not really moving. There's this grinding sound coming from behind it, and he looks in the mirror and like, something's going on, but whatever it is, I got to move the truck, and he just jams on the gas pedal. And at this point, the lady I mentioned earlier runs out of the back of the Gaylord and onto the loading dock, waving her hands like a madwoman. And Buffet just kind of like shrugs and pounds the gas. And in case you haven't figured it out, this lady's car was behind the truck, and it ended up on the other side of the loading dock. He turned the truck around and put it where he's wanted, and he hops out of the cab, and this lady is like, "Why did you do that? Why did you destroy my car?" And he just had to move the truck.
That's an accurate description of how he talks. Yeah.
Move the truck. And from there was a lot of teeth gnashing and hard feelings, but I believe that was resolved without.
It wasn't. It didn't go on our insurance.
Yes, thankfully it was covered under the Gaylord's insurance. So. But we're a little more careful in who we let drive the trucks now.
Yeah. That wasn't the only thing.
Careful.
Not that careful, but a little more careful.
That wasn't the only thing from the astronomers we crushed.
No, that wasn't even the only vehicular manslaughter attempt.
That was also the same year that a truck broke down in the consoles hall loading out.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking of that because that wasn't really manslaughter. I was thinking Leo. But
Eric Hollinger's car being unloaded after like 6 hours in the road.
Do you want to
Yeah.
talk? Do you want to talk with the truck? So a pickup truck breaking down in an expo hall. Madness.
Yeah, this was. Do you remember who was it who was supplying consoles at the time? Because it was their truck.
It was one of the groups that would bring in the newer consoles.
Yeah, like, 'cause
we rented them from them. Yeah.
We collect all the old stuff, but we can't necessarily maintain a library of like for right now. Like we don't have 100 PS5s to hook up for you. So we used
tried.
to. We used to might still bring in.
No,
not
we're
anymore?
all
We're good now?
sourced internally
Okay.
now.
At the time, there were people we could call like. So this is 6-7 years ago. Like, hey, can you bring in a bunch of PS4s and a bunch of Xbox Ones and just stuff we didn't have a lot of. And they came in a truck with a trailer, and for their load in and load out, they were able to pull directly into the expo hall because there's a little ramp off the back and everything. They pulled in the truck to start doing their loadout, and when they finished loading up the truck, they started up the truck, and it didn't start. And this was at like 11:30 at night on Sunday evening.
And we had to be out of that expo hall by midnight.
Yeah, that's how I got involved. I was doing logistics that year, and I knew we had that turnover. I was technically not on shift to monitor the late night stuff, but I was around. I figured, like, let me go down and make sure how everything is. So at around like 11:45, 15 minutes before we're supposed to shift it out, I poke my head in the door and I look around and I see this truck in the middle of the expo hall and a couple of more stray cabs and stray equipment. And I look around, I'm like, this seems interesting. I should talk to someone about this and figure out what's going on because we try and adhere to the times that the Gaylord gives us to get in and out stuff because following their schedules and making their lives easier is how we get to get away with a lot of other stuff that we get away with around here. As I'm turning around, one of the Gaylord employees who somehow knew my name, I still don't know how, because I was still fairly new to the organization at that point, and I wasn't like in the big, confab meetings where everyone introduced themselves. But she somehow knew my name, called it from like halfway across the expo hall, and I walk over and talk like, "You realize you're supposed to be out of here in 15 minutes?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll look into it." And I'm thinking to myself, well, now that there's a Gaylord employee like asking why we're not out, I'm definitely going to look into it. So I start trying to call people and don't have the greatest success in getting a hold of all, certain people that I was supposed to get a hold of because certain people had decided, I'll deal with this tomorrow because they'd forgotten the time change. And it turned out that the problem with the truck was it needed a part. And at 11:30 at night on a Sunday, no one could get the part. I didn't know at the time, but apparently it had been talked about, and apparently the lady who came up to me didn't know about it, but it had been talked about amongst other people that it was okay. The truck could stay there for a couple more hours. When AutoZone opened at 8 o'clock in the morning, they were going to go there, they were going to get parts, swap it out, get the truck started, get it out of there. But I didn't know that at the time. So I had to basically start trying to wrangle people around midnight, and I'm like, we have to at least look like we're getting out of the expo hall until I figure out how to deal with this truck. And then finally, I think it was Dom came down, thankfully, and he knew something about this. Said, okay, we know about the truck. We'll just grab the rest of these machines. We'll push them over into the other hall we have until tomorrow. And that sorted it out. But it was a little dicey there for a minute because that was also one of the years with the astronomers, and they were being very, very angry that they weren't getting rooms when they wanted them. So, but
All right.
I think that's about that story.
Yeah.
The next year is 2025. I know because we just signed contracts.
It's like a leap
Did
year.
we finally get the Riverview away from them? Because they keep snaking that from under us.
Well, once they did. You guys remember? Do you remember the Riverview Ballroom? Do you know
I
it?
remember it. It's still there.
Do you know the
Josiah.
Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man who lives on Terry Way.
The tabletop department. We have a tabletop department?
It's where tabletop is. The first year that place was built, we were like, I don't know, like that meme of Shaq being like, delicious. Over the Riverview Ballroom because it was so much more square footage that we were going to have. And we were planning for it, and we were thinking it was going to be great. And then we find out pretty late into the planning process, oh wait, you don't have it. What do you mean we don't have it?
It was a weird oversight in the way that we do the contracts, in that we signed contracts with the Gaylord many years in advance, and the contract we had signed for that year with the Gaylord, the Riverview wasn't even planned, let alone existed. So it wasn't technically in our contract, even though everything else in the Gaylord was. Sometimes salespeople don't talk to each other. So when the astronomers were booking their event and they were booking all the space after us, their salesperson noticed, the Riverview Ballroom isn't booked the week before. We'll just give it to them.
For the to make it explicitly clear, the astronomers suck. I mean, they're fine, but we hate the astronomers. Anyway, guys, let's give it up for CY. Coming up, telling some great hotel stories. We're gonna go through a few more photos, and we're gonna wrap it up with possibly the greatest story of MAGFest. The one that has involved so many people, has broken so many hearts, and has caused one of the greatest memes of the MAGFest staff. You know it, you love it. It's the McFlurry story. Hey man, have you seen Snoop Dogg? A McFlurry story. So, process of these. Yes, posters. Lake MAGFest. Last year 2020, we had this really short turnaround between January 2nd. It was basically like we had 48 hours to turn the hotel over. There is an event that the Gaylord does called ICE. And what they do is they basically do like mega Christmas party, and they take up one of the expo halls. So this year it was that year was Expo Hall E, and they turn it into like a skating rink and ice sculpture, and they freeze the place.
It was an ice slide.
Ice slide this year.
Like a luge.
The audacity. We're loading our kids in the Expo Hall D, thinking it's fine, they'll clean that up and we'll have it on time to set up registration. All of a sudden.
And the best part is the only reason we found this is that originally there were pallets in front of this. And I was like, hey, we need to start putting arcades in the correct position. So they moved the pallets, and underneath the pallets was this giant lake MAGFest that was coming from the melting ice next door.
On the other side of the air wall.
You notice there are power lines down there. There were arcade cabinets within about 10 feet of this. And the Gaylord was extremely short-staffed because they had booked they had the New Year's party, all this stuff, and so they just didn't have anybody. And this is 1 a.m. When this is happening. So we call them, and they're just like, I don't know. and this is where Wild Bill enters the story. We have a shop vac, and these gentlemen here, these are 3 of our logistics folks and one of the former department heads for arcade. They were sweeping, almost curling style, the water, and then sucking it up with the shop vac and dumping it out. And then, do you have the picture of Wild Bill and Deb?
There's the whole photo album. They did this for hours.
That power line was sparky.
Anyway, yeah, a lot of that. Where is the photo?
Yeah, Wild Bill, out of nowhere, just pulls up a fucking Zamboni. And our team eventually went to bed because they were dead tired. And this guy's
This is not Wild
driving
Bill.
it. But before this, Wild Bill had a smaller one that he was pushing around, and Deb, our executive director, was helping him.
Oh, this is Wild Bill. Do you see his shoes? He wears that regardless of time of year. Yeah, he is truly a delight.
Eventually, the guy in the Zamboni comes with those things that they put down that has the pellets in from diapers, and they put them down and they absorb the water, and they eventually found those. But he was some random housekeeping person, not anybody important in the Gaylord. Deb got people from the Gaylord down there, and they were so do we need to deal with this? And Deb was yeah, but yeah.
Deb is really funny because I don't know. There's a lot of just shit you deal with when you work in events. And sometimes, you know, what we do is very much outside of the time of normal operating hours for a venue like the Gaylord. So, you know, like, what does this sign say? 3:48 a.m.
That's when we finished with Lake MAGFest.
With Lake MAGFest. That was because the shop vac that had been borrowed from the hotel started smoking while they were using it to vacuum up water and dump it into like an adjacent drain. So I just walked in at like the next day and found this sign on the shop vac. I thought it was funny, so I took a photo of it.
Which this year we actually had Lake MAGFest Part 2 because in the back of the arcade expo hall, a drain backed up because they put too much soap in the laundry. And so sudsy water like came up and added, like when I've been here since last Saturday, and Sunday morning when I went into the expo hall, there was a giant puddle from it, and I was like, oh shit. Like, and so we called hotels and they're like, oh no, it's a drain that backed up. It's completely fine. We've called in a plumber, we fixed it. We'll eventually mop it up. It took them 2 days to mop it up. And later that night, we're sitting around eating Chinese food at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And I look over to my left and I just see a sudsy puddle advancing towards a taiko drum machine. They were pretty quick to come down that time because I was like, I personally have PTSD about water in arcades, so you need to fix this.
And if you think that's bad, don't get us started on that sewage backup in the front of Expo Hall B.
What about the coffee apocalypse that happened in the Woodrow Wilson?
I'll have to look for that photo. I don't know if we have time to get to that tonight. But yeah, we have like a staff photo album of all this stuff that goes on. So this is like our New Year's party that happened where we like bought out a McDonald's of its chicken nuggets.
This was 2 years ago.
This is like 2 years ago, like at MAGFest 2020. And then it was our New Year's party. Like we were there during New Year's Eve doing load-in. So we made a donut, and donut things ensued. We lifted it onto a forklift, and then I don't have a video of this, but we dropped it. And where's the photo? And here's the result. Very sad. All right. Good biking donut.
Yes.
That's Beal.
Yeah.
That's Beal. That's everybody. That's our life. Would you look at that? Oh yeah, this is the trash from Ice. We were taking pictures because we were like, man.
That's a carpet. They had a carpet, so that carpet is soaked in water.
Correct. It's like
I hate them more than the astronomers.
I was looking at the camera to try to figure out if I was going to say something mean about the hotel. We're not, Aaron. I'm looking to you as you are editing this video and preparing to share it via Facebook or whatever. I'm looking you directly in the eyes right now. Look back at me through your monitor. No, you don't have to turn it off. Aaron, don't put this online. It's almost as if the hotel like deliberately tries to find ways to screw us over. It's very funny.
Yeah, this year they put the ice into Hall D, which is typically where arcade is, which is why the arcade isn't there. So we're all the way down in the opposite one, which is about 3 expo halls from the loading dock. That was fun.
The loading dock is behind expo halls D and E. And what that means is that when we get things off the truck, we can't just take them straight into an expo hall. We have to take them all the way down and in. And we've had some like problems with like some of the security guards being like particularly aggressive about the docks and wanting to lock things up. One of them shut the door in my face and said, "Sorry, you'll have to go around." If you don't know, the loading dock is like on the wrong side of the hotel. It's about as far away from the front door as you can get.
If you parked in the South Park lot, you drove past it.
Yeah. But yeah, Bonnie, you have a question? Okay.
I had folks who made an executive decision to open a dock door last night so they could get
Oh, did you just push the button that doesn't require a key that they totally told us that we were allowed to use, but then later on told us we had to call security for? Okay, you're fine.
So the nice thing about the Gaylord is that we have such a relationship with the higher ups after having done, I don't know, 10, actually this would be our 10th year, I think, because this is, yeah, I believe so, 2002 to 2012, and we came here in 2012-ish. Nick, can you confirm that?
I thought 2011 is when we came.
Is this our 10th year in this hotel? The 2012 was the first.
Yeah, so it is.
So by the metric of year and not by the metric of,
MAGFest.
oh man, we had an event in October of that year actually, that I sometimes hear. This is our 10th year in this hotel. So we've had relations here for a long time. Relationships here for a long time.
Relations.
Still accurate.
I'm
get
sure
away
that
with
happens as
all
well.
kinds of shenanigans. But sometimes, we kind of have to like eat some shit.
Argue with old men at 1 a.m.
Who shut doors in your face. But then, sometimes we also just know the codes to all of the lighting panels in this space. So we could turn off the lights right now if we wanted to. We know how to break into all of these rooms. Aaron?
And by break, he means lawfully enter.
Lawfully enter all of these rooms.
That we have rented out.
And that we paid to have access to.
Yes.
We know the fact that, say, the back door to their loading dock is always propped open, or not the loading dock, the roof of the loading dock is always propped open. And we could come here in the middle of the year, just walk right up there and take a dish off the roof that we forgot. That's how we got the internet in. We get away with so much here.
I mean, it totally see this.
The what?
Never mind.
All right.
Cut that from the
One
the
day they'll
video.
fix the dock levelers too. That's my dream.
Let's strike this from the official record. Let's do some Q&A before we get into our last story of the
Oh,
evening.
you don't want to do the okay. Out there, yellow. Call it what?
We're picking up too many weebs.
We actually told this story last night, but we can tell it again.
So the Colossus Shore, it starts back when we were at the Mark Center, and the arcade was directly next to the marketplace. And we have a 6-player X-Men cab that was donated to us by a gentleman named Charles Margolis, who has since passed away from cancer. So our X-Men cab, Sorry,
I just showed a photo. Unrelated.
Oh, thank you.
Unrelated to her story. Please continue.
This is Coffee Apocalypse.
Yeah. And it's like a memorial cab for him. It also happens to be signed by Stan Lee. So I don't know why, but one year it was just ridiculously loud. Like you can adjust the sound, but that's not something we give a shit about most of the time. And it was directly next to the marketplace, which is in an open, like, atrium style thing in the Mark Center.
It's basically like a very open, multi-level, like, you're right, atrium. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm just mansplaining over you.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I've only been, the Mark Center predates me, so I've only been there for, labs and stuff. So, and it just was, constantly going on and, echoing through the Mark Center. And it just got picked up by attendees, and they would just start it. And while you think the atrium here, it makes a massive noise at the Mark Center, and you have you can tell this better about the going around.
Oh, yeah. So basically what it did is it made a donut around. So when people would Colossus, or it would basically circle the hotel and kind of come back around on itself. So you'd get this quasi wave effect where someone would go whoa, and then you would just like that, all the way around.
So that's why MAGFest is a donut. Yeah.
You've cracked the code.
Perhaps. Anyway, I hope that explains the origin of the Colossus Roar. Why it's called Goku Roaring?
People are dumb, that's why.
I can all but guarantee you it has something to do with the MAGFest 21 Facebook group. That is a group of attendees that just are a force of nature to this convention, for better or worse. Yeah, they're mostly Facebook kids. Anyone else got any other questions for us? Orange shirt.
They've been at, what you could describe as like ungodly hours, anywhere between, midnight and 5 or 6 a.m. Is there like anything of note you can talk about that happened at like a reasonable time of the day?
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, the quinoa? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to come up here and talk about the quinoa? Come up here and talk about the quinoa. Okay, so this is Bonnie. She is first year, one of our department heads of staff suite, which is one of the most difficult and one of the most thankless jobs we have. She feeds our volunteers. She feeds our staff out of one of those secret agreement handshake under the table deals, and just the quinoa is fine. And lunch yesterday was turbo fucked. Cannot describe how fucked it was.
We're supposed to serve lunch at noon. We didn't start serving lunch until 1:30. To give you an idea, traditionally, my department has a cook day on Tuesday before we load in, where we show up at the warehouse, we do a bunch of cooking, we put everything in a fridge that is actually a converted chest freezer, which is on wheels. Yeah, they are. So everything was in a fridge. We cooked 8 aluminum full sheet pans of quinoa. That's 8 Costco bags of quinoa in industrial rice cookers. When that refrigerator got to the Gaylord, it did not get plugged in. It did not get plugged in for probably about 12 hours.
Who wants to guess what color it was?
I don't actually know. I didn't see it personally. God, I hope not. There were some weird smells that day. I really hope one of them was not the quinoa. I might be a little bit glazed.
They did not serve the quinoa, in case you're wondering.
We did not serve the quinoa.
No, what we did was we served leftover Chipotle from one of our, we do sometimes catered dinners. Actually, we do every night catered dinners because it is impossible. Stories like this occurred all the time when we were trying to prepare 3 meals a day. So what we do now is we cater in meals. So getting that and then taking some of the basically leftovers and then trying to repurpose that into lunch for yesterday.
We had leftovers from 3 other meals. And honestly, the only reason we had animal protein for that meal is because of leftover Chipotle and because some of my staff didn't unload a warming oven the night before. Almost everything in that warming oven also went in the trash. We were able to salvage 3 big pans of rice, vegan fried rice, flaming grill and buffet in Oxon Hill. Primo. Get the barbecue chicken.
Here's a photo from previous years of, I'm going to close my red
Am I in
tabs.
that one?
I don't know. This is a photo from previous years of
Here's one of our board
staff.
members.
That is last.
That's last year.
The girl on the left is our board member too.
Oh yeah, is that Crawls?
Yeah, that looks like
That's Crawls.
Yeah, okay. So,
That's Crawls, and there's Pixie in there. He's now a supervisor.
yeah, Pixie. Do you guys know those like bitchin' balconies right above the cherry blossom ballrooms, like panels 1?
That's us.
That's this suite room. We have systematically deconstructed all of the furniture in these rooms and have moved them outside and transformed it into an underground kitchen.
I just want to say, this year, since during the pandemic they renovated like all of the rooms, I'm sure you guys noticed. In both of those rooms, there are massive dining room tables that have solid marble tops. We had to move them onto the balcony. It took, I think I remember here, I was not personally there to see this, but I heard it took 8 people to move the larger, and somebody broke a finger. It may have been sprained. It may have been slightly crushed. I'm not 100% on that, but it was injured.
We sleep, breathe, bleed MAGFest all the way down, guys. If you want to volunteer, you can come visit us in Stops on Avelia too.
I mean, a prereq to be a arcade department head is you have to break a bone at MAGFest.
I don't qualify, thankfully.
Anyway, Staff Suite's like one of those really awesome services. So if we could please give it up for Bonnie, who has just had one of the roughest years. We talk about this staffing shortage. Staff Suite is always one of the least thanked jobs, so it's always a pleasure to honor these guys for the work they do.
Can I actually also call out that if you had a shift, if you are in this room and had a shift in Staff Suite, please stand up. We want to give you a round of applause. I know there are 2 of you.
Ole, 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 ole.
Even if it was technically a reinforcements shift.
Yeah. All right. One more time. Let's give it for Bonnie. Thank you so much. All right, guys. It's time. I have to close Stops in 10 minutes, so it's time for us to go to the last final story of the evening. Close all of my photos tabs. It's time for the story that has birthed 1,000 memes.
Oh, no, please.
That's a
Talk
chandelier in
about
Staff
that
Suite. I'm just going all the way over. Actually, never mind. It's time to talk about, hey man, have you seen Snoop Dogg? A McFlurry story, as told by Carrie Snyder, Mark Murnan, and Josiah Tillett.
So I guess I'll start out. So that year, we picked up a new arcade collector who came out of New York, and my other department head had vetted him and was like, even though I generally handled the contractors, he was like, yeah, he's cool. He's got some classics and pinballs, and he's gonna come in. And like, that was also the year that there had been a blizzard before and then after MAGFest. And he was driving down from New York, so he had to drive like through a snowstorm. And it took him a lot longer to get here than we anticipated, even with the snowstorm. And when he arrived, it turns out he had just been stopping at random places, picking up arcades that he found on Craigslist. So he like loads in, and it's super late at night, and he has some console stuff too. It's a shame Bunny's not here either, because she knows part of this story. And like, he puts his arcades in, he, gets everything, and then he goes to bed. And the next morning, when we come down, I found out that he didn't really go to bed, and a lot of shit went down. He had gone to, and I don't know if you've ever been to like the little provisions cafe that's or like convenience store that's like in the atrium, and had charged over $300 worth of stuff to his room, which was a MAGFest room. So, and he didn't pay it. He didn't have a card on for incidentals, so he got locked out of his room because he didn't pay this. He visited Reg to pick up his badge, and he stole a McFlurry from the staffer there.
This is important.
And then he did a lot of really random shit and like crazy stuff. And so the next morning we're talking, and it's a shame Nick left, because Nick is an integral part of this story. We're talking, and I'm talking with the division head, Tronster, and Nick, and we're like, we think we have to get rid of this guy. Like, he needs to go. And this is Thursday morning before we open. And I was like, okay, well, I can have my people start moving his stuff out onto the loading dock, because his truck happens to just still be on the loading dock, because we didn't move it the night before because he got there so late. And so we're moving his stuff. My staff starts moving his stuff out, and he comes into the expo hall. And he sees them moving his pinball machine, and he's like, "Why? What are you doing?" And the person moving it goes, "Yeah, the guy that owns these is getting kicked out."
Oh my God.
So this guy like flips out, and like he's like screaming at Tronster. He's like yelling at him, and like we have a part of the arcade that's like behind drape, which we use for our repair area. You might see a sign on it called the bike shed, and he like goes back there and is like screaming at Tronster. And Tronster's a very like even keel person, like not like he just like, and the guy is like so aggressive, and he's like basically trying to fight Tronster, and Tronster's just like, yeah, no. And so he says, "You need to fight me. Bring me a real man. Bring me Carrie or Ethan." I'm Carrie, by the way. And so I'm at the like arcade help desk because I was like, I don't need to be a part of this. And so the assistant division head comes over to tell me this. And then the guy just takes off running. And we've gotten like the Dorsai and Gaylord security in on this because of how this guy is freaking out. And they just tackle him into a like pile of chairs that's there for the tournaments. And as he's doing this, he just screams, "Ow, my balls!" And then the Gaylord security removes him, and we discover that he didn't drive the truck, his friend drove the truck, and his friend just disappeared and is no longer answering his phone. So we have a truck full of games, we have a collector that's getting kicked out by security, and now I'll hand it over for the next part of this, for the part of the later evening.
This is how he got kicked out, yeah? Or after he got kicked out?
We got kicked out. He's gone. We think he's gone.
So at this point, let me just cut back for a second and say that like as all this goes on, this man has already acquired a reputation for himself across the event. Because he just keeps having random encounters with people. Earlier in the day, I believe we've done like some archaeological research in this. We actually have done some significant like attempts to figure out what happened in a timeline of the day. The first person to have an interaction with him was one of our concert security staffers who this gentleman ran over with a pallet jack, moving something around, and just said the words, was how excited he was about seeing Snoop Dogg because he heard from his friends that Snoop Dogg was playing MAGFest. And he talked about how he loved Snoop Dogg so much, and he had this fixation on the number 64, and there was some reason why the number 64 was very important to him. But those were the two things that this concert security staffer got from him was the number 64, which is important, and Snoop Dogg, which is not important. Then he goes on with his life, and all of Carrie's stuff happens. But we're hearing about this guy, like whispers in the ether, like the tea room ghost. Just like we're figuring out things about this guy that are just happening. At some point, after he'd been evicted, he decided to walk to the McDonald's out at the front of the harbor in like walk in 20-degree weather. And got it into his head that the reason why he had been kicked out was because he stole that McFlurry from the Red Desk staffers. At that point, he decides that in order to kind of make up for the fact that he did, he's going to buy some McFlurries for MAGFest staff. He has fixated on what number, people?
64.
The motherfucker buys 64 McFlurries.
What? Oh, what flavor? What flavors?
All of them. Snoop Dogg
all-
flavor. Who cares?
They were all Oreo.
We spoke to somebody weeks after the event. This was the year that we had the Kirby swatches. We had to mail them out afterwards. We're at a party at some guy's house in Baltimore, like flashing these things, getting them ready to ship. And some random person who I hadn't met and Mark hadn't met at the time is talking about how he's at this McDonald's and he pulls up to the drive-thru and he's like, "Hey, you guys open?" And the McDonald's employee just goes, "Just come inside." He walks inside and he finds and snaps this photo that was circulated at that time among the MAGFest staff of someone in the McDonald's with trays and lines of McDonald's McFlurries lined up on this counter. It's that guy.
That's the real reason the ice cream machine is always broken.
Correct. How did he get back, you ask?
No, my friend drove him.
He didn't know who he was.
Just like, oh, this guy is somehow at this McDonald's magically ordering 64 McFlurries. Sure, you can use my car. Let's go.
And at this point, the only people who really knew what he looked like were arcade people. Like, the other people had heard about him, but they didn't know what he looked like.
And then at this point, oh, sorry, you have a question? You want clarification? The timeline is just fucked. So if you need me to stop and explain something again, feel free to just raise your hand or like gesture confusingly. At this point, it's getting late, okay? So we're at...
It's like, so we had the pink prom, and I had gone to Super Soul Brothers. And I came out of Super Soul Brothers, and I was like, hey, I'm hungry. Let's go to the tea room. And we're walking up to the tea room, and I see Squid, call back to the guy asleep on the Killer Queen, and he says, he's eating a McFlurry, and he says, hey, do you want a McFlurry? Some dude brought 64 McFlurries. And I am allergic to milk. And I was like, no thanks. But my boyfriend's like, yeah. So we go to the tea room, get some McFlurries, talking to Squid.
And then her story pauses there, okay? Because now here's where I actually come into the picture. I'm sitting up in tabletop at the time. Yes, Mr. Hand waved? Midnight. It was late.
Probably like 1 a.m., like midnight.
So this is another...
late night story, yes.
Yeah.
This happens between the hours of 12 a.m. and 4 a.m., okay? I'm sitting in stops. It's like 2:30, 3 a.m. I get a message from our volunteer coordinator saying like, hey, it's snowing in stops. It's like, I have no idea what that means. I walk downstairs, go in, and everyone's like eating McFlurries. And we're like, hey, yeah, some guy just came and dropped off a bunch of McFlurries, said, I'm sorry, and then left.
Oh.
We're like, what? So, and the desk staff are just excited about this. They're like, yeah, I think he's coming back. He said he had some more. But, we're just telling people that they're here and we're handing them out. He said he would refer the staff, blah, 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 blah. And then he comes back in. And if you don't know anything, but the operations hallway, the security desk is on its way between the operations desk and stops. So I walk by that very regularly. When this gentleman was getting evicted from the event, I looked over and saw some incident, which involved Nick, with this gentleman in security. He's not there. I'm just motioning to an empty chair.
He was there, though.
He's no longer with us. Yeah. And I'd seen someone that kind of looked familiar. And then this guy comes in and starts talking to me about how sorry he is. And he gives me no clarifying information. This is like 3 a.m., whatever. And I go, wait a minute, what's your name? And he tells me his name. I go, I have a hunch.
It wasn't a real name, though. It wasn't his real name. He told you.
Real name. I go, I have a hunch about this. I feel like this reminds me about these incidents I've been hearing earlier. So I look over and I find one of our board of directors is in there enjoying a McFlurry. That literally the only thing he did that event was try to eat a McFlurry and help with this. And I look at him and I say, hey, things about being banned, that's not really my domain. I more deal with the volunteers. But here's a member of our board of directors, if you could sit down and talk with him. And I grab the board, his name was Paul, by like the shirt, and I go like, stall him. And I walked out. And then I'm like, Carrie, where are you? I message her because I'm like, I think I know who this is. I think this is Crazy Arcade Guy. And she goes, I'm in tea room. And I'm like, oh. And then I walk 30 feet and she's sitting in tea room. And this is where you pick up.
And he's like, hey, can I borrow you? And I was like, okay. And we go like behind the tea room, like in the service hallway. And that's where the refrigerator full of McFlurries was. And he was like, hey, I think your arcade collector has returned and brought all these McFlurries, but he gave us a weird name, and nobody here knows what he looks like. So I need you to ID him. And I'm like kind of freaked out because earlier he tried to like fight me. And so I was like, okay. And we come up with like, I'm going to give a hand, like walk in, like pretend I'm talking to Paul and then like give Josiah a hand signal if it's him. But like I walk in and the guy's sitting at the table and he just looks up at me and we just lock eyes. And I like turned to Josiah and I was like, yeah, that's him.
No. That's not what happened. What happened was outside of this room, we're like standing outside of this room behind the door and I go, okay, just walk in, look, and if it's him, give me a thumbs up behind your back. Carrie walks in, locks eyes with this guy, turns on her heel with her thumb behind her back, and walks out and goes, it's him.
I was traumatized. It was a very traumatic day.
It was very traumatic. Like I don't blame her for doing that, but it was just such a funny image in hindsight.
So we had to, again, call security, but we also had to lock down that hallway to prevent him from leaving, basically. And did you send the regular staff, like...
No.
I know they left and they couldn't get back in. They didn't know why.
We had to shut down the hallway. So, like, the police were coming in. We didn't know if this guy was a threat. We didn't know how volatile he was. So we just shut down the room. And I'm like, I've got my staff in there. Like my volunteers are working in this space. And while like all of this talk is going on
and they don't really know what's going on.
They don't know what's going on. So there's like this, I'm not going to say armed standoff because there were no arms, but there was like this standoff with the police. A lot of tears were shed. This guy's kind of crazy. A lot of like going back and forth. My volunteers just kept working. like at one end of the desk is this guy like shouting at the cops, and at the other end of the desk is like it was David Boyd, it was Janice, just like signing people off on their shifts.
That's the real Meg.
And I was sitting down the hallway at the end of the hallway, like if the police need me to identify him, like I need to stay here. But I think you called in Matt Beal because Matt Beal this was also Matt Beal's first year.
It was
first
his 1 month anniversary of starting at the company.
And the way that he found out about it is maybe it at the time was Ashley or somebody messaged him, was like, hey, do you want a McFlurry? They're downstairs. And he had come downstairs to get a McFlurry.
That's how we accumulated all of our office members for this incident, by the way. None of them got a McFlurry. They were all gone. Mostly taken by this guy right here, Hachi. He took the last one.
Boo.
Boo. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really great at ending this story. So you want to?
Well, so they eventually the police removed him, and his friend was with him, and his friend was eventually got to him, and he wasn't really arrested, but he wasn't let back on property. And his other friend who was the driver, a couple hours later, they got a hold of him, and the next day he returned, and he was all right, but he was followed very closely by Gaylord security as we finished loading up his truck, and he was very only 3 certain people could touch his games as we loaded up, and then he left, and he was like, "Hey, good to meet you." And about 3 months later, tried to friend me on Facebook. So yeah, that was and to this day, we still find stories about the time periods that neither one of us had eyes on this dude from other staffers encountering him and not really connecting that it was part of it and crazy shit that he did. I had somebody last year, because we had locked up some of his console stuff that he had brought in our storage area, and we couldn't give him a key to it. So this was one of my managers, he kept the key, and then the next day or later on that day or whatever, this guy accused my manager of stealing his stuff. He said, "You put it in a room and it disappeared." And he was like, "No, it's just locked up in there. Like, it's still there. And the guy like refused to believe. And like, this wasn't just like one console. This was like a pallet of consoles that he accused my manager of, stealing. And I didn't even know about that.
The
earlier today, and they just straight up didn't give it to me.
Oh, so anyway, this is like an incredibly traumatic experience for everyone in our office. Like I said, Beal's first month, his 1 month anniversary, he was in tears because he very much felt for the situation this guy was going through. I swear, every single member of the office ended up crying for some reason or another. It was just like super emotionally taxing. So the next year, when after we had all kind of like had the time to process through that, we started an annual McFlurry party. The McFlurry has now become
MagFlurry.
MagFlurry. The McFlurry has become the sorry emoji on our Slack instance.
We just actually came here from our MagFlurry party. We had MagFlurries tonight.
And it is the 5-year anniversary of that incident.
And I know that because today in my Facebook memories, I got a thing that says, okay, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. And that was me talking about MAGFest. We also, we found somebody tweeted, maybe it was tweeted on Facebook, one of my managers found a post that said, hey, I'm at MAGFest. Did anybody else see that dude get tackled and scream, ow, my balls? I had a screenshot of it at one point, but I don't anymore.
I'm trying to find a photo of when he left, because the story of how he left, you've told a bit of it. Did you tell about how the photo got taken?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so we loaded his crate cabinets up, and the Gaylord Security's there, and like our event manager, or Dorsai, and also Dom, who was the executive director at the time, we're all down there then basically just make sure this guy left. And he insisted on taking a photo with everyone at the end of the event, as if
I wasn't there, I left.
As if he had been departing a group of wonderful friends that he had made. So I'm trying desperately to find this photo. I don't think I'll have it in time to show you guys before we have to close, but there is a photo that exists of this guy surrounded by Gaylord security, our security, Dom, who is just such a trooper, and this guy. None of them are smiling, and this guy is smiling and giving a thumbs up sign in front of his truck before he left. And that's the last image we have of this person, which is a pretty good summation of how we were with him.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you so much for coming out. This has been a wonderful panel. I'm so glad that many of you were troopers and stuck through. I'll be around afterwards if you have any questions. I've got some old staff lanyards. If people want to grab one, feel free. Sit down.
Talk to me if you want to actually start volunteering and help in Staff Suite.
Yes. If none of this deterred you,
then you're a true MAGFest volunteer potential.
Yes. Potential.
He just fucking jinxed us. He just jinxed us.
Why do you hate fun?
We still gotta make it through loadout, dude.
Can we all just smudge this entire hotel?
Sure. Anyway, Tyler, question.
Good luck on that.
One, but I'm not going to tell it. It may or may not. No, I'm not.
We broke one of their display cases this year loading in. I shouldn't say we. It was one gentleman's effort.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great night.